it's about a minute. And that's really the first really important thing about an elevator pitch, is that it's very, very time limited. Begin with the end in mind. One of my favorite euphemisms from the great Dr. Stephen Covey. If we could all just kind of take a pause as we get ready to walk into a meeting or get on the phone or present or pitch, whatever we're doing, we would do so much better if we could just start with, what am I trying to do here? Because I have seen so many people do this and just, wander off into the whatever and not stay on point and on task, okay? Or they don't really understand, well, what is the intention of this? What is this supposed to do? And that's really the key with an elevator pitch, okay? The end result of an elevator pitch is the follow-up. You might even call it permission for a follow-up. So what that means is, this is not a sale. You're not here to close. Well, you kind of are in that you're closing the next appointment. But this is more of a flirt. It's more of a seduction. It is very much rooted in human emotions. And you really want to leave somebody with, I want more. All right? That is the purpose of the elevator pitch. It is not a complete sentence. It is not a complete story. It is not a signature on a contract. It is none of those things. It's going from zero to the next appointment. And I think one of the best analogies that I've ever read in a book on selling, and this book's called The Rainmaker by, I think it's Michael, is it Michael J. Fox? Maybe that's wrong. Can't remember his name, but it's something initial J. Fox. The Rainmaker is the title. He talks about the analogy of a sale is like a chain. And like when you go to the hardware store to buy a chain, you don't just buy one link, you buy a series of links in a chain. And that's what a chain is. And I think it's a great analogy for a sale. Because oftentimes what happens is we try to do everything in one link, and that doesn't work. It's just not effective. So it's really good to remember that the elevator pitch is a link in the chain. It's not the whole chain. It's just one link, okay? So that's the first thing. Begin with the end in mind. Here's the second thing. I think that the best pitch, or the best way to think about a pitch and the architecture of the pitch, is what I call the storytelling frame, which is 3 words. They're very simple, and here's what they are: the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then I know every time I say it, people go, ha, ha, ha. Well, yeah, it is kind of funny, but it's so true. This is how stories are told. And I've done a lot of studying in my professional career about storytelling, especially in the last 10 or 15 years. Written classes on it, taught it, all that kind of stuff. The beginning, the middle, end, the 3 acts, ACTS acts. That's what they are. And so the reason I like presenting it this way is because it puts a frame in your mind that there's 3 steps to this. It's not just this blathering, BSing, ongoing conversation. It's 3 specific steps that you go through. Okay? So let's talk about the beginning. All right, just that single step. Now let's just kind of have an analogy here. And let's just use the elevator analogy, the elevator pitch, okay? You got into an elevator and there's somebody standing next to you. And I don't know what your level of comfort is just walking up to somebody and talking to them. We're not going to do that part today. But let's just say this is somebody you don't know. Maybe you've seen them around, whatever it is. And so what you want to do is you want to pitch them. All right. So the first step in the pitch is the introduction. All right. People don't think about this a whole lot. I mean, we've been told this, but we don't really focus on it a whole lot. The initial impression is everything. If you don't pass that part of the quiz, the rest of it is moot. Okay. Now, there's a lot of different elements that go into an initial impression, but here's the overlay. Someone liking you is an emotional response. It's not a thinking response. It's emotional. It's feeling. Okay. So you really want to approach this first initial contact having that piece of the presentation front of mind. Okay. So, and I know this sounds like a weird term, but it's the one that works. It's a seduction. It's a flirt. And I don't mean sexually. Okay. So we don't have to unpack all that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you want to approach this person and have them like you. So what are some of the things that you can do? Okay. So one of the things that you can do is look your best. Okay. I mean, I see some people walking around out in the world and they're always very presentable. Matthew's one of them. Not that you, the rest of you aren't. Okay. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, when I'm sitting in my studio editing all day, I'm not all that good looking. So if I go out to a meeting, whatever, I have to redress. That's just it. Because we are judging creatures. Always. We're always judging each other. So my point is just, look your best. You don't have to look like you're going to the prom, but just look your best. Okay. Number 2, be happy. Have a presentation of a happy spirit. Okay. That's hard to say no to. Okay. Now again, nuance matters. Context matters. I'm not saying hit on people, but what I'm saying is look your best and have an happy spirit. Okay. The next thing is eye contact. And I know you've heard this a million times before. And one of the things that I know about myself that I'm not good at, that I always have to be mindful of, is eye contact. I tend to look down and look away. I can't do that. I need to look at people. And those of you who have met me, and I mean almost all of you have at some point, I'm not a little dude. So I have to physically adjust myself. I'm 6'5", and Kelly, what are you, like 4'2"? No, not, you know what I'm saying. But if we stood together, yeah. So it's like this, okay? Well, that's kind of awkward because she's going, you got to pick your nose. And I'm saying, well, you need to wash your hair. So I've got to physically adjust myself so that I can be, within a certain tolerance of my counterpart's eye level. I was at a meeting yesterday and I stood up and I was talking to this woman who's probably like 5'5", and she's just like this the whole time. And she goes, my God, you're big. It was fine. I mean, it wasn't like but I'm like, yeah, I mean, I put that physical presence out in the world. But if I was pitching her, I would do something to adjust my eye level with her. Okay. That's just something that me as a tall person has to be mindful of. Okay. If you are on the phone pitching, here's a couple tips and tricks. Okay. One of them is have a little mirror on your desk so that you can see yourself. I've been doing this for a long time. It makes a difference because then you can visually see what the spirit is that you have, because when you're on the phone, they can't see you. It's 100% auditory. And if you're just kind of, hi, how's it going? I was wondering if you'd be willing to, they can totally tell. Okay. What I like to do personally is I like to stand. I'm a pacer. I'll walk around and I have a headset and all that kind of thing. And the third thing, if you're pitching on the phone, again, we're at step 1. You want to use the best audio equipment that you can use. How many times have you been in a conversation with someone who's wearing the earbuds and they walk away from the phone and they don't even know that they are? I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. And if you use a headset and it's low quality, get a better one. What people hear, the quality of what you are transmitting makes a difference in their openness to you and their willingness to listen to you in your presentation as a professional. I mean, look, You guys look at me every week. See what I'm using? It's not an accident because it makes my voice sound great. And that's why I use it. That's why everybody who does this kind of work uses these, because they give us the best voice quality possible. Okay, last thing on Zoom. We've talked about this before. If you're going to be on Zoom and you're pitching, just look at what's behind you, or use a fake background or whatever you got to do. But that matters. You know, camera level matters, all that kind of thing. I don't want to get too deep into that. Okay, let's go back to the live presentation. Again, we're in step 1. I'll finish with this. How you shake hands. Okay, so Kelly, as sometimes is the case, you are a token lady here on Zoom. So I'm going to ask you a question as a woman. When you meet a man for the first time, it's a brand new encounter, and they give you what I call the wet, fishy handshake. How do you feel about that?
I haven't really had that happen. What I have happened is they crush my hand and I have arthritis, and I've literally said, ow, and pulled back. So I don't understand, and my answer to that is hand them the fingertips. If you go in with your fingertips, then they can't grasp you.
Well, you can, and I think that's more appropriate for a woman than for a man. But yeah, the crusher is the opposite of the fish for sure. So you got to find the middle. Okay. So here's just a quick primer on how to shake hands. Okay. So the first thing you do is you put up your shark. Okay, your dorsal fin. You make sure this is, this has to be up. And then what you do, and you're kind of watching this in your peripheral vision, but you go right into the web of the other person's hand, all the way in. And it's that web part that has to hit. Okay. If you do that, you have the least amount of opportunity to hurt the other person. And I'd be very mindful of that, especially if that person is wearing rings on their shaking hand, because some people wear rings. I don't, but some people do. And the last thing about the handshake is, and this happens in a millisecond of delay, mimic the other person's hand pressure. I mean, I'm pretty strong, so I could hold my own. But if I was to meet Kelly or another female for the first time, and I'm mimicking their pressure, if they're going to give me the strong, like the guy grip, and some women do, I match it. If they're a soft shake, I match it. Okay, so match their grip. All right, that one little thing, believe it or not, about handshaking, it leaves a huge impression. Huge. Okay, so act 1 of the pitch is how you present yourself. Have a good spirit, eye contact, look your best. Put your fin up if you're meeting them for the first time. If you're pitching on the phone, sound your best. If you need to walk around, use a mirror, whatever, just kind of be in a good, happy spot. And if you're on Zoom, look at what's behind you. Okay, that's act 1. Okay, act 2. This is the hardest part of a pitch. Okay, this is the part you really have to practice. And if you've been to other classes that I've done on selling and negotiation and things of this nature, I'm always very strong on two polarities. One is feature benefit, and one is problem solution. Okay? So when you're pitching, the only way you can really use problem solution effectively is if you've already done some homework on who you're pitching and you know what a problem is that they have. And if you do, then you acknowledge their problem and you give them your solution. I think in the world of pitching, that's a more difficult one to do. So instead, what I like to focus on is the benefit statements. And the most important thing about a benefit is that it is 100% based in how it's going to help the other person and how it's going to help them in the future. I mean, I was telling somebody this last week. One of the biggest mistakes that salespeople make, anybody who's selling anything, and we're all selling all the time, is that we lose sight of the fact that selling is a future tense proposition. You're not here to make my life better, like right in this moment. You're here to make my life better in my future. And if you frame it that way, people are oftentimes much more receptive. Okay. So I wrote a little one here for Desert Pencil. I wrote it this morning. It goes like this. I teach professional licensees and investors 3 skills. How to tell the difference between a good deal and a bad deal, how to use simple financial analysis tools to make wealth decisions, and how to invest their money so that it works for them instead of them working for it. In the past 35 years, I've taught this to over 50,000 people. Okay, that's 3 benefit statements. Okay, so one of them is the difference between a good deal and a bad deal. Second one, how to use financial tools to make good decisions. And the third one, how to get your money to work for you so that you're not working for it. Let me stop there. Michael Coe, what did you think about those? You've been around Desert Pencil since Jesus was a boy. What do you think?
I think that those are statements that you have pitched those statements since day one. Yeah. In there that I remember there.
I think they're solid.
So I think that's very succinct that you could go in there and it's like, here, this is what I do. This is why you want me to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. Chris, what did you think of those 3 benefit statements?
I think a lot of people would probably do it in reverse, and that's probably a mistake. I think a lot of people tee up their history and their experience and then sell the benefit, but you pitched your benefits and then underscored it with having taught 50,000 people. That's kind of a reverse, I think, of what most people do. I've done this practice myself, and I'm looking at something that I scripted years ago. And I try and sell my history first and then lead to the benefit of that. So I found it interesting, your reversal there. But I think they were really good, to Michael's point. I mean, I've been in and around your classes for a long time, and they sound familiar.
Yeah. That's a good point. So if you want to write down these 2 words, social proof. Okay. And so I put my social proof at the end instead of at the beginning. I am always trying to be very mindful about not being all braggadocious. And so I'll just kind of slip that thing at the end, and 50,000 people have done this. And that kind of hopefully makes them feel, because it's a feeling thing, like, oh, I want to be part of that. Seth Godin, who some of you, yeah,
100 billion.
Exactly. Exactly. And so as marketers, we talk about things like that because everybody wants to be a part of something that's successful. And then there's FOMO, fear of missing out. I mean, geez, if 2 billion people have eaten those burgers, they must know something. I want to get in on that deal. If this guy's taught 50,000 people, he must know what the hell he's doing. Things like that. Okay. And they're very simple. They're very succinct. And they all are included with an intention and a purpose. And that is to get people to have a feeling like, I want this, and he's the guy. This can help me. He's the one that can do it. I want to be a part of this. This will help my future. However you want to mix those things up. But it's always the same thing. Remember, this is seduction. You're trying to get people to like you, and you have a very, very short amount of time to do it. Okay? So let's go to the third one. At the end, okay? So what I like to do at the end of an elevator pitch is to ask for specific follow-up and a specific appointment. It's an appointment setting minute of my life. Okay? And I tend to lean in pretty hard. I mean, I'm not clobbering people. But at the end, I would say something like this. If I were in the elevator and I just said the things I said, ending with, and I've taught 50,000 people how to do this, I would say something like this. I'd love a chance to take 5 or 10 minutes and explain this more to you to see if you think this could really help your brokers. I can come over next Tuesday at 1 or Thursday at 5. What works better for you? Now, we've all heard the 2 alternative date close. Okay. But the point is, I don't just kind of leave it in the ether like, well, you think about it and get back to me if you're interested. No. I don't do it that way. And some people kind of push back. Like, oh, you're being too pushy. Well, I didn't show up today just to, say hi. I showed up today to tell you what I do because I'm generating new business. And I'm not passive about this. I really want to talk to you. And I'm going to ask you if I can please do that. And it's so funny about people. I don't care what level of an organization anybody works in. It just works better if we tell people, I'd like you to do this thing on this date. It's almost like an instruction. And people are just kind of wired for that to, oh, okay. Not everybody. But it works a lot better than not doing it. Does it work every time? No. But I think I've learned over the years that it's the most effective close that I can use. And that's it. Okay? It's not a big fluff thing, any of that. Oh, one other little thing. Let me throw this down. If you are pitching face-to-face, and I learned this many years ago, like in the 80s, from a sales trainer that I went to at some sales conference. For this purpose, have a set of business cards that are blank on the back. I know people like to do front and back, but if you have to get a separate set just for this, do it. And then get out your pen and write your cell number on the back and hand it to them and say, this is how you can get a hold of me directly. People feel special. People feel like, oh, you're giving me the high touch instead of just, here's my card. If you take that 3 seconds and maybe you've already written your number on it, whatever, say, look, here's my card and this number on the back, which is hand pre-printed. This is my private number. This is how you can get a hold of me. I want you to have this.
Interestingly, Joe, a number of smartphones these days are capable of handling multiple phone numbers, can have virtual, and so you can have a second phone number and not have to carry a second phone.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's been around for a while.
Mm-hmm. Thought about it.
I don't know why, but this week I've been blocking numbers from solicitors. I'm on the wrong lists or something. Fortunately, my awesome Samsung phone lets me block them, so that's part of my weekly to-do list. Okay. Jacques, what did you think about the pitch?
I've heard you teach this before, and I think I brought up what I'm going to bring up then, but I know of at least one ethnic group where this is not going to be it's going to be less effective, and that is with Native Americans, because by and large, Native American culture, you avoid eye contact because you're seen as being too aggressive, and the handshake thing is really going to be off-putting to them. I spent 8 or 9 years teaching on Indian reservations in Montana, and it's interesting to see really how limp-wristed a lot of times the handshake is. They tend to kind of wait and see what you're gonna do later on, as far as the impression that you're going to make. You're not going to do it with eye contact and handshake with them.
Okay. That was so excellent and so important what you just said, and I completely neglected that. So thank you for bringing it up. And as you were talking, I was thinking about when I used to teach in Seattle in the old room. They had this book on the bookshelf. I'm probably getting this wrong, but it was something like this. It was called Shake, Bow, or Nod. It was a book about how to interact with different cultures. And so what you're saying is so important if you're working in an intercultural kind of an environment. And thank you for bringing that up. The book right next to it was called The Ugly American. I went, oh, well, that's my book.
I think sometimes if you get a client that is a different nationality, it's a good idea to just kind of Google what their country's customs are, so that you don't make a faux pas right off the bat.
No, that's a really good point, Jacques. Thank you for that. All right, let's go back to the middle here. Let's go back to the benefit statements, and I want to take about 5 minutes. And this is just a little quick personal exercise that everybody can do, okay? I want you to pick one thing that you do really, really, really well in your professional life, okay? It might be doing CMAs, it might be negotiating, it might be your knowledge of construction, whatever it is. But just pick one skill set that's tangible and measurable that you do really well. And then I want you to come up with, how is that going to help somebody else? That's a benefit statement. Okay, let's do a quick practice of this. I'll give you guys 5 or so minutes, and then we'll talk about a couple of them. We'll wrap up for today. Okay, so one more time. What's the thing you do that's really good? That's a feature. And the hard part is, how is that going to help someone else? That's the part we're focusing on. So take a minute, come down with one of those. And if you get done with one, go to the second one. Okay, we'll do 5 minutes. We'll come back and talk about them. We'll be right back. Let's see here. Chris, why don't you go first? What's one thing that you do really well, and
How do I always have to be the first?
Okay,
Hey,
good.
I'm always first usually.
Kelly was always first.
So I've spent 28 professional years mastering the art of marketing, relationship building, and negotiation while honing contract craft, which leads to incredible outcomes for my clients.
Okay. So that is a feature benefit statement. And I'm just giving you feedback as I've never heard this before. The feature was about this long, and the benefit was about that long. So what I want to hear more of is, how are you going to help me in your future? See, this is a really tricky one, because oftentimes when we're speaking, we think that experience automatically correlates to excellence. It does not. And we have to communicate that. So the way I would change that one, and it doesn't mean I'm right, this is just how I would do it. I would say something like, I've spent 28 years in marketing. And with my last client, and then fill in the blank, increased sales by 60%, got us 10,000 new customers, some specific thing that you did.
Right.
Okay. The benefit statement is hard. It's very hard. The feature, not so much. But I would think about twisting yours around in terms of length. Okay. Kelly, did you come up with one?
I have a lot of good things I'm good at.
I'm sure you do.
I'm very good at contracts. I've taken more schooling than any other broker in my entire office together. Very good problem solver. But I'm also, I won best customer service in my office 3 years in a row. So, when we start this process, you and I are going to be a team, and I'm going to be there for you every step of the way. You call me anytime, weekends, evenings. I'm always available to you to be a support.
Okay. So as a percentage wise, you're the top 2%.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would do something like this. Every year for the last 3 years, I've been in the top 2% of every agent in my office for customer service. I have to think of a benefit statement. So I would shrink that part down, and I would use maybe the top 2% isn't the right bell to ring, but if you can quantify that some way, that tends to be stickier. Okay. And so then the hard question becomes, how are you going to help me? how does your awesome service help me as a new customer? Because when you say, I'll be there for you, call me 24/7, all that kind of stuff, those are all features. Those aren't benefits. Those are things you're going to do. But the question is, how are you going to help me?
Right. Because you're going to feel completely supported throughout this entire process. You're not, this is one of the biggest expenses in your life, and you need somebody to be there to be your guide the whole way. And I'll be there for you every step of the way.
Okay. So here's where I'm going to bring in a little bit of dogmatism. And I know I've said this before at some point. People do more to avoid pain than they do to seek pleasure. Okay. So I might frame this way. Again, I'm in the envelope of customer service. Top 2%, all that kind of stuff. But here's what matters most to me. That you make the right decision, because you're going to have to live with this decision for a long, long time, and you don't want to make the wrong one.
Exactly.
Okay. That hits an emotional chord with people because nobody wants to make a wrong decision. And if you can say this is a big decision. This is like who you're going to get married to, how many kids you're going to have. I mean, this is a big life decision, and you don't want to make the wrong one. And then you segue the service piece into it. Okay. Michael, what did you come up with?
I came up with as part of my pitches. Part of my pitches, I'm very detail oriented and follow up. And where this is important to you is I watch your deadlines and contingencies because they can cost you money, and I don't want you to lose any of your money. I watch it like it's my own.
Okay, so that's a good one. Contingencies and deadlines. See, again, elevator pitch, very short. You've got to be very surgical in the words that you pick, and they need to be sticky. That's why I said to Kelly the 2% thing. If Michael, with yours, you talk about deadlines and contracts, I immediately go, okay, I get what that is. So you've got to convey your message in a way that the listener can immediately connect to what you're saying. And then again, I would say, because if you don't do this the right way, you're probably going to lose a lot of money you don't have to lose, or worse yet, you're going to lose the deal. Okay? FOMO, fear of missing out, fear of loss, want of gain. And what's so funny is, this is so counterintuitive, because we all think, oh, I've got to sell the unicorn and the rainbow. No, you don't. You've got to sell getting away from the devil and the flood. That's what makes people connect. As you may or may not know, expectations, I think, is one of the most important words in the human language. So I could do 4 hours on that whole thing. But to me, what correlates with expectations is just people being happy. Okay. So I don't know that you're going to avoid the landmine, so to speak. But what I would say is the thing I'm really good at is negotiating difficult transactions to a happy outcome, because I know how to manage people's expectations. So the line that I draw between expectations and the end is people being happy or satisfied or content. Okay. Thanks for showing up. Good to see you.
Thank you.
God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.